Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I just did a thing. Involving the Summoner Wars 2nd Edition Master Set. And I intend to publish this thing on the old gaming channel that I talked about so much last year and never did anything with. So, who knows? Later today or tomorrow, there might be some new content showing up on that channel. 2nd Edition Master Set's awesome, but this is not what I wanted to talk about today. If you are interested in Summoner Wars, I highly recommend this edition of the game. So good. I've been working on the train game, and yesterday I talked a little bit about why I feel so hesitant to ask people to playtest my games, and it's mostly because I don't put the effort in that I feel like I should put in. Somebody, I think it was Chris, had a good remark saying that maybe that's a little bit of an imposter syndrome, and you're probably right. I think that I have an expectation, or I have a sort of I have a understanding, I guess is the correct word, that most people are, most game designers are obsessive about playtesting, whereas I am not. I'm more obsessive about finding interesting gameplay mechanics, and so we did this video a couple days ago, or beginning of the week, I think, where I talked about ordering the prototype from GameCrafter, and I said I was confident in ordering those parts because it was it's kind of an already vetted design. I've already played the resource portion for years. I designed that years ago, and so I was confident in it, and now I'm second guessing all of that. I'm second guessing all of it because I played Raccoon Tycoon recently, and I really like the Raccoon Tycoon production cards, meaning that if you haven't played the game, there's these cards that have resource value and a production section, and when you play it, you're going to raise the price of resources. Now, my game doesn't have resource prices. I'm not thinking about adding that, but the production area has a bunch of icons on it, and you're allowed to select 3 of those to keep. So, for instance, it might have like 3 goods, an iron, and a wine. And of those icons, you can choose 3 to keep. And there's cards that up that or whatever. And so I was laying in bed last night. I had this crushing headache last night. And I'm thinking about the train game, and I'm like, why don't my train cards have multiple resource types on them? And I started really I almost got up and started prototyping it. Because right now, the resource cards that you take from the center have 1 resource type. So if you take this, I don't know why I keep calling them resources. If you take this freight card that has grain on it, you get grain. And based on the number that's on the back, you either get 1 or 2 grain, and that's it. And I've always felt like that portion of the game, while it's interesting, because as we talked earlier, there's this line of freight cars, and you can move the train up and down this line to kind of block other people. While that's interesting, I always felt like it takes way too long to get resources, because you're just getting 1 a turn. If you get some special powers, some special upgrades, you might be able to get 2 a turn. Maybe 3 if you're really special. But probably max you're going to get 2 a turn. And it kind of creeps along because it takes a lot of resources to be able to do some of the more involved parts of the game. And I started adding in these action cards to kind of augment that. So instead of just being able to take 1 resource, you'd be able to take 1 plus 1. Instead of being able to spend 1 resource, you'd be able to spend 1 plus 1. And so I started augmenting the resource gathering ability. And then, as I thought last night, I really thought, like, why don't I make each freight car hold multiple types of freight? And that way you have more interesting decisions, because maybe I want to get wheat or grain because I'm trying to build this card in my hand, but an opportunity comes up for lumber, and my grain cards also have lumber on them, and so I decide to spend them for lumber instead of grain, and now I have to rebuild my grain collection to try, it adds a little bit more interesting decisions. So I'm not doing that yet. Right now I'm working on, I figured out the VP mechanism and the game end mechanism. I'm working on the action cards right now. If you haven't seen on Twitter today, I posted a, like, do you want to help? You can go click on a Google document, and I put up like a real brief summary of the game just to give you rundowns of the key terms. And then I wrote out a bunch of action card phrasing, and then I asked for help on rewriting some of those, because some of them read very awkwardly, and I want to make sure they're nice and consistent. So I'm going to work with this current version of the game before I decide whether I'm going to go one way or another with the multiple resources per train. But it just kind of, it's one of those things that I kind of chuckled about, because it was like, I said that I was comfortable ordering those components because they weren't, because I already knew that part was good, and now I'm second guessing it completely. Yeah, what's $20? One thing I've always said about the Game Crafter, and the reason I continue to order from them, is because the people that own and run that company, I'm basically friends with them. I would say I am friends with them. I'm friends with them. And so when I order from them, it's more like I'm just helping a friend, right? Like, I feel that way about that company. I really feel personally connected to them. And it's because they have a chat room. It's because they're so open to communication. It's because I've met them at conventions. And, it's like, what's $20? Sure. I'll help my friend's company, and I don't have to do the work. So if I end up scrapping this whole thing and starting fresh with a fresh new order, that's okay. I'll make it up. I'll figure it out somehow. So there you go. Summoner Wars, I'm not saying that I'm going to publish a video, but who knows at this point. I also recorded some video footage from game night that I'm hoping to try to put into something. So maybe not. I'm going to at least edit the videos and see if I think they're worth publishing. And if they are, go look for those on the game channel. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again Monday. Happy 4th. Today's word you should know to sound smart is gestalt. It is a noun meaning a unified whole. Feminism is an entire world view or gestalt, not just a laundry list of women's issues. Charlotte, an American feminist. Gestalt, G-E-S-T-A-L-T. Charlotte? I read gestalt wrong the first time, and I had to redo it.